think we're ready now. So I want, like, just tell us a little bit more about yourself. For those of other people who don't know you and what your book is about. Just who's Nicola?
Who is Nicola? Well, my name's Nicola Huelin. First and foremost, I am a mum who lives in the UK. I've got 2 children. I live with my partner Graham in the countryside, in the middle of nowhere. So I'm sat here today talking to you from a very rural area, surrounded by cows and fields. And I guess online, I'm better known for the work that I do through Empower for Mums in Business. I am a business coach and mentor, and my big passion is my mission to empower 1 million mums in business. So that's what I'm all about. Supporting mums in business to help them become more visible and to succeed on their terms.
Wow, that's amazing. That's very amazing, and that's a very interesting niche as well. Because I mean, moms are busy all the time, and to think that not so long ago, moms were not considered. Or let me say it this way: moms weren't. Whenever you talk about moms, you'd never think entrepreneur. You'd think they'd be the stay-at-home, work, take care of the kids, clean, cook, and do all these other things. But as time has moved on, moms are doing a lot, and they can be entrepreneurs. They can multitask, and they can prepare something amazing for themselves, for their future, and for the future of their kids. So that's amazing. Very, very, very awesome. So since you told us a little bit more about yourself, I have a couple of questions that I'd like to ask, and feel free to add whatever else that you think you want to add that would be beneficial to our listeners. So, first question is: has publishing your own book, which I know you're about to speak, you're going to elaborate a little bit more on that, but has publishing your own book, has it benefited you in any way? I'm pretty sure it has, but if so, just share a little bit more about how you being an author has actually added to what you do, and how it has helped you to accomplish your mission, and so forth. Has it helped? What's going on?
Yeah. It's a great question. Has writing? I hope the audio is okay on this recording and you can hear me okay.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Writing a book was a really big personal challenge for me. So I'm a first-time author. This book. So if there's anybody out there listening to this who has not yet written a book, or has been through that process of writing their first book and can remember what it felt like, it was a big challenge. My book's called The Invisible Revolution. It is a business book that's written for mums in business. So, yes, of course, it's benefited my business. My book was published with an imprint called Practical Inspiration Publishing. They specialize in practical, inspirational business books. And one of the really important messages that is shared with all of their authors is that the process of writing the book should have some lovely synergies with your business. So as you're writing the book, there's always lots of content that you can repurpose and share as you're writing, so that whether you're repurposing it to share excerpts as articles, blog articles, things like that. So as I was writing the book, it really helped my business in terms of having new and fresh content I could repurpose and share. I also ran a podcast as part of the research for my book. So whilst I was researching it, it gave me loads of really amazing marketing collateral stories from real mums in business that I could share and then integrate into my book. Once my book was published, of course, it really benefited me in terms of when I take on a new client now, I can give them a copy of my book, because it shares what I call the 14 pillars of success that all mums in business need to understand and integrate into their business in order to succeed in a way that's right for them. So it's this wonderful kind of kickstart content I can hand a new client. And then, as most people will relate, it was one of the main reasons for writing my book, was because I felt I had a really important message that I wanted to share in order to empower 1 million mums in business. And working one-to-one people, I'd have to live until I'm like 3,000 years old to hit that target.
Yeah.
So the benefit for me on a very personal level was to be able to share my message with a wider global audience. My book goes off to different countries all over the world, and that's an incredible benefit, is being able to reach a wider audience. And then, of course, in terms of business, when you become a published author, people hear about your book. It can be a great door opener as well. It took me a year to write my book, and when you're writing it, there are no guarantees. You don't know who's going to see your book. Is it going to get into the hands of the people you want it to? But writing the book itself can then lead to speaking opportunities and to conversations that you might not otherwise have had. One of the great things, for example, a book can be really great for getting additional PR. So not that long ago, a couple of months ago, my book was listed by The Independent in the 10 best business books written by women.
Yes.
The article that The Independent wrote went viral and led to so many different conversations and people getting in touch that that's otherwise been connected to. So I mean, I could sit here. Benefits of writing a book. I mean, other than I can say I did it. I spoke about writing a book for about 5 years before I actually started writing it. So the biggest benefit is that it was something I wanted to do. Really wanted to share my message, and I did it. So that's a really big.
That's amazing.
Personal plus.
Well, first of all, congratulations. That's amazing.
Thank you.
It's something, being an author is not exactly the easiest thing to do. Writing a book is not easy. Getting it published and going through that process. For some people, it's 7 days, 1 week. Other people, it's a year, 2 years, 10 years, 20 years. But it's always worth it. It's always worth it. Always worth it. So, congratulations. That's amazing.
Thank you.
And which leads me to my second question, and I think you've partly answered it, but just to be clear, what problem would you say your book is solving in the world today?
Wow, what a powerful question. You said about how the landscape for mothers has evolved so dramatically over the last, let's say last century. The role of men and what we're out there doing in the world has really, really changed so much. And women today have choices, which is great. And whether to make that decision to be a homemaker, and which is hard work. Hats off to all the women who are full-time homemakers. I did it for a chapter in my life. It's a tough thing. Whether a woman wants to go and work and pursue her career within an organization, or this third avenue which has opened up, the one that I call the invisible revolution. There is this growing movement of women who are saying, actually, there's a third way. I want to be my own business. I'm going to start and build my own business, which is amazing. And technology, thanks to digital revolution, the birth of social media, it's never it's never been easier.
Yes, yes.
In terms of technology facilitating that,
Yeah.
to start and run a business from home, but it doesn't mean that there are any less challenges along the way. It's challenging, you know. Being an entrepreneur, starting and building a successful business is challenging, and that is the problem that my book seeks to resolve for women who are facing the challenge of, how do I build a successful business?
Yeah.
That's a question in itself, without compromising my quality of family life and my health and my sanity in the process. And from the work that I've done, I've always been in business since I graduated university. I left the corporate world 15 years ago, and I've been an entrepreneur in various online and offline businesses. And I had this situation in my very first business when I left the corporate world. My story is that first business was a huge financial success.
Yeah.
It was great on paper, but cost me 2 years of precious time when my children were very young, and it led to me being completely burnt out. You know, within 2 years, I was in a really, really bad situation physically. I went to see the doctor, and I had loads of different medications, I had low blood pressure, but emotionally and mentally, I got myself in a real state. And whilst most people would look at that business and go, oh yeah, I was so successful, it was actually my biggest personal failure. And although it's really sad, it's the one time in my life I look back and regret, because you know, the costs of that business are not just financial. That time I can never get back with my kids. My son was 4 months old when I started that business. I barely have any photographs I took compared to when my daughter was that age. Things that, you know, is really sad as a mother to say I'll never get that time back. However, it was the catalyst for doing what I do today, to say, you know, it must be possible to have a successful business without it coming at such a high personal cost. What does it take?
Yeah.
So I went on my own business journey to discover that, and then 6 years ago wanted to share what I'd learned the hard way with other women. I could see more and more women deciding to start their business. And there are 14 things, 14 pillars of success, that if you've got these ingredients in the mix, then that's when you stand, you know, a better chance of succeeding on your terms. And so, you know, what's the problem? The problem I saw is so many women struggling or paying that high personal cost and not being able to get clients and feeling completely lost and overwhelmed and trying stuff and it doesn't work, and they're pumping time and energy and money into their business and they're just not getting the results they deserve. And that's the problem I wanted to solve. Saying, here's the big picture, here's the starting point if you're new to business.
Wow, that's amazing. And I think you dropped a lot of nuggets of wisdom in there. And how do I say it? I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, this has been from my own personal experience as well as having researched some quote unquote successful people. A lot of their biggest successes, and a lot of our own business, my personal successes as well, have always come from a place that we consider to be failure, a place of deep pain, and where everything just looks like it sucks and everything's dark and everything has fallen apart. And it's funny how in those very specific places we can, by changing the way we look at things and being curious about, you know, and just answering certain questions and just having an introspective look into our lives, we can turn that around and make it work. And it becomes something that just catapult us into an amazing future. Like, it's amazing. I really find that very, very interesting. So thank you. That's amazing.
So you know how I said where I am right now is in the countryside, and I'm surrounded by fields. Most of them have cows on, but some of the fields are farmed by farmers. And the metaphor we have for that, you know, periods of adversity, when shit happens, for want of a better expression, you know, when we look at farmers, before they can cultivate and reap an amazing harvest, part of the process, when the land feels barren and there's nothing, there's not even shoots, they're sowing seeds, but before you can even sow the seeds, they will spread the muck. You know, muck spreading, it happened here last week. It stinks. It's horrible. You know, there's shit everywhere. But actually, it's that part of the process that is injecting into, you know, injecting the potential. It's what feeds that growth later. So I guess that's you know, farming is a great metaphor for life. And I don't think I've met a single person, you know, homemaker, career committed, or mum in business, who hasn't experienced adversity in some way, shape, or form. It's part of the journey.
Wow, that's amazing. The next question I was actually going to ask you, but I think you have already answered it, and it was, what are some of the hurdles or the challenges that you faced? And you just spoke about it. I think the biggest one would have been you a couple of years ago, and you said you have been meaning to write a book, but you were busy with a business that was successful, but deep down it wasn't actually, you know, what you wanted or what you needed. And so you went through all of that, and then the book through the pain that you've been through. So I think that really answers itself, and that's amazing. So another question that I want to ask, and just to give us a broad idea of what exactly drives you, and I think I know what you're going to say, but what drives you to do what you do every day? What drives you? What's your biggest?
Put into words, but there are people listening to this interview who can relate. I believe that what I do today, and I started doing business coaching and mentoring other mums in business, women in business, and creating the Empower community, started 6 years ago, and it felt like, okay, it was like this aha moment. This is what I'm here to do. Like just this recognizing, if you like, of what feels like my life's purpose. There'd been all these different chapters to my life, periods of adversity, things I'd learned, and they're all great chapters in themselves. And then all of a sudden, it's like all these pieces of the jigsaw puzzle come together, and I had this epiphany, like, this is my life's calling. This is what I'm here to do. This is my gift, if you like. And I don't. It's the word drive is interesting. It's like, what's driving me? Well, there's no question that I wouldn't be doing what I do every day. I love it. And don't get me wrong, there's massive hurdles, whether it's, you know, writing a book is a massive investment of time and energy. And there are moments where you're like, oh my goodness, can I do this? Why on earth am I doing this? Why am I putting myself through this? Same with speaking. I guess a lot of authors often combine sharing their message through the written word with the spoken word, and I've been on that speaker journey too. I went from being a lifetime, all my adult life, I've been a speaker phobe, to giving a TEDx women talk in Crete in November. Again, same thing. Is like there are moments where you think, why am I putting myself through this? But they're fleeting moments. because the answer is always there. It's that bigger sense of our own purpose, and just knowing, that deep knowing that this is what I'm meant to be doing, and it doesn't feel like work. This is I'm lucky to make a great living from what I do, and also I'd still do it. Even if I didn't, I would still be doing what I do.
Definitely. I love how you answer that question, because it's a very hard question to answer. It's like one of those questions that are like, how do you know that this is what you want to do in life? How do you know? And it's such a very hard question to answer, because it's hard to articulate it and put it into words, how you know that this is what you're supposed to do for the rest of your life. Like, it's very hard.
And I think it's really hard to put into words, because for me, it's a feeling. That's my feelings of my compass, what guides me. And if something doesn't feel right, it's not right for me, and I won't do it. I make a lot of decisions intuitively, and how I feel about things are a big part of that. So if it feels right to write the book, even though it can feel difficult, challenging, I know deep down, it feels right to do it. So I guess that's why it's hard. Questions like that are based on a gut feeling are hard to articulate.
Definitely agree with you there 100%. Because, for the same thing with me, because I'm also an author, although I never planned to be an author. And I'm also a speaker, and I never really thought I'd ever do what I'm doing today. But when I look back at my life, there were certain signposts that were actually leading and guiding me to what I'm doing today. I just never thought it would actually happen the way that it happened, but I'm so grateful for that. So that's amazing. So my last question, which I think would be a very important question, would be, I know you said there are 14 pillars to in your book that you explain that there are 14 pillars to having a successful business and so forth as a mompreneur. But if you could just give, whoever's listening, the moms listening, maybe the dads listening, you can just give them one secret that right now would help them shape their life when it comes to their business, and being able to live that balanced kind of life when it's family and business. Like, what's the one thing that you tell them?
These one thing questions are the most challenging for me, because I could talk about this stuff a lot, and there are 14, but if
yes.
we have to take one, I'll try not to cheat.
Oh boy.
Self-belief would be my starting point. When we have a big vision or a goal or an idea, that's a bit like setting the destination in the sat nav. Is the direction we want to move in. That's the summit of the mountain. And self-belief is the seed of all possibilities. It's the self-belief which will allow us to take that first step or not. And the step after that, and the step after that. All these big journeys that you see, people writing books, people speaking from massive stages, it's been a journey. It's easy to look at somebody in a moment, in a slice of time, and go, oh my goodness, look what they're doing, look what they've achieved. But it's about always remembering it's a journey, and everybody's journey is made up of the same individual steps. And our beliefs, which are subconscious, are the ones that will either be rocket fuel for that journey and keep us taking those steps despite challenges, overcoming hurdles, breaking through those roadblocks. Or if we lack self-belief, or we have hidden limiting beliefs, that can feel like actually there are no visible roadblocks, but all of a sudden we're slamming our own brakes on, or the brakes rubbing, and it feels like it's a battle just to keep going. So that's the starting point for me, I think, is self-belief, because that's what allows us to put one foot in front of the other or not on these incredible journeys.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. First of all, thank you once again for joining me. I've had a blast, and I wish it could take it even longer, because there's so many questions, there's so many things that that I want to ask, and I'm pretty sure that the people who are listening have benefited, because I've personally learned some things as well. So thank you very much for this insightful.
Thank you, Webster, for this opportunity. And I hope everybody's journey is different. There's no one, as you know, you're an author, you're in the world of publishing. There's no one way to write a book, publish a book, get it out there, get it into the hands of people. There's no right or wrong. So I hope there's been some, one takeaway or a gem or an aha moment that will just help somebody on their journey.
Oh, definitely. Thank you very much. But before we leave, you need to tell people where they can purchase your book.
Well, the easiest way is to go to the Empower website, because the book is on there, and that's simply M for mum, so Empower, MPOWER.com.
Great, we'll have the link, and we'll set it up.
Actually, what am I saying? I've given people the wrong URL. .global. I do that so much.
Oh boy.
Everything is always .com. This is not. Sorry. Empower.global.
Oh, almost. Empower.global. We'll put it out. All right, then. Thank you very much, Nicola. It's been such an amazing time, and hope to speak to you again soon on other things as well. It's going to be, just all the best with your book, and I know that it will continue to do well, and I hope that it continues to find itself in the right people's hands all around the world, and maybe not just moms, maybe dads too, whoever, whatever. But I know that it has, especially those 14 pillars are amazing. So I would love everyone to just go and get the book if you can, and the rest is history after that, isn't it?
Thank you. And thank you for doing what you're doing in terms of this podcast and encouraging and supporting and inspiring other authors, because books can make such a big difference to people's lives and journeys, and can share such wisdom and practical insights. But making them so affordable and accessible to people. And I reckon everybody has a book inside them. So, well done for the work that you do, encouraging authors to get their book out there.
Thank you very much. Nicola, thank you once again. I will see you on the flip side. Have an amazing week, an amazing month, and all the best. And thank you.
Thank you.